Hello there and welcome to my channel. Today I thought we'd take a look at photographic backgrounds. I have to say I'm not a professional photographer, I'm just an enthusiast, but I do have a small number of backgrounds and the kit that you need to use those backgrounds. So I thought I would show you how I use them, what kit I've got, and if you're new to photography or if you're thinking about investing in some backgrounds and stuff to take portraits, then maybe you find something in this video that might be of interest to you. So okay, so let's whiz through portrait backgrounds. Okay, so great backgrounds. So one of the first backgrounds I ever bought was a grey background. I bought it because it was recommended, because they are so versatile, and actually that I found that to be pretty true. Grey backgrounds, very good useful to have in your kit for portrait work. People wearing white against grey um, does look really good. I should have put an example actually in my set of pictures here, but I didn't. You can change by adjusting your lighting and the distance of the subject from the background. You can adjust the shade of grey, so you're getting you can create quite a few variations of grey if you want to. You can also, by adding additional lighting, you can turn grey background white very easily. The pictures you see here with me with the white background were taken with the same grey background. It just requires an extra one or two lights to be shining on the background. Very easy to do, and we'll touch on that again in a moment. Also, grey backgrounds work really well with coloured gels, and if you look at the pictures at the bottom there, they took seconds to set up, and I just use, you get these things on eBay and Amazon, etc., these little kits, and you just stick one of these things in front of your flash, the flash that you've got pointing at your background. Takes a bit of getting used to. You've got to get the right mixture of distance of the flash from the background and also the power strength of your flash. But once you've got a good result, you record those details, and that makes that you're able to it makes it repeatable. So yeah, very easy to do. So grey, very easy to create different shades of grey. You can turn it white very easily with additional lighting. Great with gels. You could also grey. You can turn grey black. I think it's the inverse square law dictates about how light drops off, but basically the further you move your subject or model away from the background, the darker the background will get, to eventually it goes black. However, for me, in my small man cave here, or what my wife calls the dining room, I don't have the room to do that, so I couldn't show you black examples from a grey background, but we've got other ways of using getting black backgrounds, so we'll go into that in a moment. So yeah, great backgrounds, cheap and cheerful, they're not expensive. I would recommend, if you're thinking of getting one, I would go for the folding type rather than the cloth. If you go for a hanging grey cloth, you're going to have to iron it, and that makes it more difficult it makes it less transportable. But with the pop-up ones, they stretch out better, and that helps to remove the creases. So yeah, great backgrounds. So let's move on. Okay, black backgrounds, as I mentioned. Yeah, so I couldn't show you an example of black background using the grey. However, black backgrounds are probably the easiest background that you can you can produce. So you can use a black sheet, black wall. The fold up ones are very useful. So on these examples here, I used, I've got a Niwa 2 meter by 1.5 meter foldable background. It's black on one side and white on the other. Excellent piece of kit, and a really nice start place if you're just getting into portrait photography, because you can just use a black sheet, anything, and to start with, just use one light. Ideally, if you do that, you want one flashlight off camera, but you can do it on camera if you don't have a light stand, or if your flash doesn't work off camera. But ideally, good start point, one light off camera, and you get pretty good results. I must say, and I've just noticed, if you look at the third picture here, you'll see there's a bit of light spill there. So on that particular picture, I've used two lights, and there was a second light, flashlight behind me, and it was pointing towards my head. Now that's called a hair light. Now I know I've got no hair, but it's not called a bald light, so it's called a hair light. So anyway, so yeah, so on that picture I used two lights, but in general, very easy to get away with just using one light. So, and very cheap, and a good start point, as I've said before. Okay, let's move on. So white backgrounds. Again, as a start point, you can use white paper, white sheets, white walls, and the way you make the white bright is you put a flash pointing at that wall, paper, cloth, whatever. You do need, so for you to take the portrait, you do need one flash pointing at you, then at least one flash behind you pointing at the wall. In some occasions you might need more than one flash, but these pictures here were taken, these are the same pictures that you saw previously. These were taken against the grey background, and were done just using one flash. So in my setup, I was sitting on a chair, taking pictures of myself with a Nikon trigger, which triggers the camera, not the flash, and the camera then in turn triggers the flash. So I was sitting 3 feet away from the background, and then behind me, the flash was directly behind me, pointing towards the background, and I had, on this occasion, the power on that flash, the one that was behind me, was on quarter power, and it was just enough to blow out the whole of that background. Did quite well. If you look here on this one with me in red here, you can just see here where the white has dropped off a bit there. I would have had to work a bit harder to get around that and adjust my lighting, my distance, whatever, but it didn't detract from the picture too much to my mind, so I didn't go there. But that's all you need to do. So yeah, so again, quite one of the cheaper ways to go to set up with sheets, paper, foldable white backgrounds, but you do need a second light source, something to be behind you pointing at the backgrounds, and whether that be flash or LED. Just experiment and see what works for you. Okay, let's move on. Textured backgrounds. So I've got a small number of textured backgrounds, both the foldable and the hanging types. I personally mostly go for stuff made by Kate. I think her stuff is really nice. You get really nice mottled backgrounds, and they're a little bit more expensive. But again, you can, as you see in these examples there, you can use them with colored gels. um, works quite nicely. The one that I've got here, this blue background here, this is a cape background. It's blue on one side, and on the other side is this grey here. So this is just one background for the price. Really quite nice. You'll notice, or you may notice, that the coloured spots that I've used here, those I used with one of these bad boys. I'm not sure I would recommend investing in these, but if you come across one cheap, might be worth picking up. So, and that just sends a straight light down. The problem I had using this thing was I set it up originally. I put it onto my Godox LED light, and when you're setting it up, it looks great. You can see where your color is situated, so you can line up the shot very well, very easily. However, when you come to take the picture, the flash from your flash gun overpowers that, and you can't see the spot. So I had to use that device. I had to use a second flash, and then that's much harder because you can't see where the light, that color gel, is going to land, and then you have to keep testing and adjusting. So yeah, so for me, I'd love to have done that with LED light, but it didn't work. Ironing, mentioned earlier, cloths need ironing, and occasionally so do the foldable ones. My backgrounds are, I think I mentioned earlier, are 2 meters by 1.5 meters. These things are quite big when they unfold, and even the fold-up ones occasionally need a bit of ironing, particularly when they're brand new. So ironing something that big was not an easy task. I had to rest it across. Had to open it up, rest it across the dining table at one end, and then resting on the ironing board at another end, and then slowly steam ironed it. Got there in the end, but it was a bit of a chore. Again, if you're taking cloths with you, you don't want to be worrying about ironing, so the fold-up ones are better in my opinion. You do pay more of a price for them, but worth it for the convenience, I think. So yeah, just to finish off, the kit that you may need, and also I'll quickly run through the kit that I've got. So obviously you need a camera. You're going to need a flash, preferably off camera, and if it's off camera, then you need to put it on a light stand. So you'll need a small number of light stands. You need softbox or shoot-through umbrellas or reflective umbrellas. That's going to be your main light, your key light. And then if you want to use gels, or if you want to turn the background white, then you're going to need additional lights pointing at the background. So you're looking at least one flash, maybe 2 to 3. If you do decide to go for additional flashes, they don't always need to be top quality. If you've got one good quality flash, you can use the other flashes just as slaves, so they're triggered by your main flash, and you can set the power on those individually. It's nice to have all these where you can control them from one point, but that becomes more expensive. But if you're looking for a cheap and cheerful method, just get your main flash, the best flash that you can afford, and then short-term additional flashes. Just pick up a flash that's compatible, that will use as a slave, so it's triggered when it sees the main light goes off. It triggers off. It doesn't have to be particularly clever to do that. On my setup, oh sorry, I forgot to mention, I couldn't think of the name of it. It's a snoot. My apologies, I forgot the word. I was avoiding mentioning that. So, so just to show you what my setup looks like. So um, what I do for these pictures that are in this video, I was sitting on this chair. I had this grey background behind me. Behind me, or to the side of me and slightly behind me, this was my second flash, and you can just see that there was a coloured gel on there, and that was on quarter power, and that was 2.5 feet away from that background. I was 3 feet away sitting on that chair, and I was staring at my camera, which is here. So ignore that background there. I just put that there just to block out some daylight. So this is my Nikon camera. I've got here, I have my Godox Pro flash controller, which controls my main flash, which is a Godox flashlight, which is hiding in there. And what I do, as I mentioned earlier, I use my Nikon camera trigger to fire the shot from while I'm sitting in my chair, nice and comfortably there. And when I do that, I've got this little piece of kit here. This is a Neewer F100 monitor. And so when I take a picture, that picture comes up on that monitor, and it comes up with the histogram. So from the comfort of my seat, I can take test shots and then see whether or not I need to increase or decrease the power of my flash to get the histogram that I want. So if I do need to adjust the flash at all, then I do have to get off my bum and walk up to my flash controller here. I don't have to undo all the stuff in here and get to my flash. I just go to my controller here and up or reduce the power of my flash from my Godox flash trigger. And yeah, so that's pretty much my setup. If you're going for cloths, you probably need one of these stand sets. You can get them very, very cheap. You see them on eBay. But look, if you're going to buy one of those, look for something that is sturdy, and also look for check what height they go up to. Some of the systems don't even reach 6 foot, and you need them really ideally to go to at least about 7 feet tall. You can also use these to hold up the fold up type backdrops as well. You see here that they come with little hooks and things. So if you don't have a wall to lean these against, it's another way of holding up your backdrop. So these things are they are inexpensive, but they are very useful. But do try to get the best quality ones that you can. The bar comes in 2 parts, and you also, by buying one of these, you've then got an extra pair of light stands that you can put your flash guns and stuff on. You can never have, in photography, you can never have enough stands for all kinds of reasons. Yep, the gels, as I mentioned earlier, loads of different types on eBay, on Amazon, etc., etc. I would recommend go for the cheapest things. They just invariably tend to be held onto your flash by an elastic band. Anything cleverer than that is more expensive and just does the same job, to my mind. On mine, I've got the thing I use. It's a little bit of plastic. Let me get it in shot. A little bit of plastic sits on my flash gun, and I put an elastic band that holds it in place, and then you can swap the gels out at will. Only cost a couple of pounds, and I wouldn't invest spending any quantity of money on those things. Cheap and cheerful, I think, in terms of those, is pretty good. You do also get color correcting gels, but to my mind, if you need to color correct your images, you should either do that in camera or in post with editing software. I don't really see the need for correcting color gels, but using color gels to yeah, jazz up your backgrounds, have a bit of fun, which is great. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I've got one grey background. I've got a second background which is black on one side, white on the other. Use it regularly. And then I've got a few Kate background cloths, which are great. I've got a, I don't know if I got it here, Andy. No, it's disappeared somewhere. Oh, it's hanging up on the wall at the moment. It's a lovely brown mottled cloth, but every time I put it away and bring it out again, it needs to be ironed, and so that one needs ironing again. I've got some Kate fold up ones, which tend not to require ironing, and anyway, and if they did, if you use depth of field, open up the aperture on your camera and throw the background out of focus as much as you can, you quite often can get away with the creases anyway. It won't be seen. So yeah, so that's my kit, and hope you found this useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you at the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.